What part of reality hit you like a brick growing up? Story 1. You have to decide what to eat every single day. Yep, fully agree with this one. Guys, do any of you struggle with this, right? Like, it kind of makes me a bit anxious thinking, oh no, I need to eat today to keep myself alive. What am I going to have? Like, I find as well that I eat a lot of the same meals. I need to start changing up my meal. I need some different meals in my life. I might have to find a couple recipes or something. But guys, do any of you have this? It's like, oh, I actually have to decide what to eat today for breakfast, lunch, and tea. Like, oh, it's a drag. Story 2. When during a job interview that required my specific college degree, I was told that it paid minimum wage. Story 3. How fast life really moves, especially once you have kids. Story 4. That I was never going to just magically complete the journey and end up in some beautiful place and live happily ever after. That happiness was something I had to make myself feel, not something I magically gained. And that loving the idea of something is a harsh difference from actually living it. We only get one life to live, and it's a series of difficult decisions and challenging issues, but we have to enjoy it along the way before it's gone. Yeah, I can relate to you here, I think, as well. Like, when I was younger, my plan of life was so different to how my life's actually panned out. Like, I thought, oh, I'll be married and have kids by the time I'm 25. I'll live in a mansion. Like, do you know what I mean? And it was just so unrealistic. That must have just been my, like, child, naive brain. But I could not imagine anything, like, worse than having kids. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, some people, that would be their idea of, you know, a great and happy life, which is fantastic if that's what you've got. But for me, no. And I just can't believe that I thought that was going to be my life. Story 5. I remember being so disillusioned when I found out that adults generally don't get summers off. My parents were both in education, so it never occurred to me. Still seems so unfair, to be honest. Story 6. That nothing and no one is permanent. Story 7. You'll realise one day that you won't have your parents around anymore, and you'll have to get your poo together to get by and live comfortably. Story 8. That I won't automatically feel like an adult when I become one. I still feel like a teen who's left home alone just trying to keep poo together till my parents get back. Except they aren't coming back. I have no idea what the frick I'm doing most of the time. It's like I'm in over my head. And I know I'm an adult, but I don't feel like a real adult the way I saw adults when I was a child. Like, should I really be trusted to keep myself alive, plus take care of a house and pets and pay bills and get insurance? No. I've been married over 10 years and I still think I'm a wife. Holy poo, what the frick? Yes, this is something I struggle to come to terms with. 100,000%. It's like, I do not feel like I'm an adult, right? I don't feel like I pay bills, I look after myself, like, I do the washing, I wash my own clothes. Like, this exactly is not like what this person just said. Exactly. Like, when I thought of adults so differently when I was a kid, and now I am one, it's like, it honestly blows my mind. Like, fully blows my mind. Like, when will I feel like an adult? Or do you ever just feel like an adult one day? I asked my parents this the other day, actually. I was like, how old do you feel mentally? And my mum was like, oh, 25. And my dad was like 18. I was like, whoa there, cowboy. Down. Story 9. First week at my first real office job. Bam. That's my life now? Pooh. Story 10. Doesn't matter how much you love someone. If they don't feel the same about you, even if they did for years, you can't change it no matter how hard you try. Story 11. How cruel and dumb people can be hits me multiple times a day. Story 12. The concept of death. I was 16 when I had first experienced true loss. I had lost someone due to cancer and I still have moments where I feel I'm not completely over it. Story 13. There's no growing up. You stay the same person, only with less hair where you need them and more of them where you don't. Also, a poo load of people use some kind of drugs. Story 14. Inter-office politics. You have 3 choices here. You play the game and make allies, play the game and make enemies. Don't play the game and make enemies, but slower. Story 15. That I'm not smart enough to have an easy life and will probably work like a horse to keep a roof over my head and food on my table till I die. Story 16. Electricity and cheese. That poo's expensive, yo. Story 17. No one's there to give you a hug when you really need it. Story 18. Realising that my parents are actually quite dumb. Story 19. There's absolutely no guarantee that things will turn out okay and I'll be successful. Story 20. Working sucks the life spirit out of you. Yeah, guys, going back to the whole being naive when I was a kid, like, I can't believe that people do office jobs their whole entire life. Like, and I thought it was so much easier to be rich. I genuinely did. Like, it's actually probably never going to be a possibility in my life. But things come over that when you grow up, like being happy with someone, having your friends around you, like being in a happy, healthy relationship and having a relationship with your family. That's a lot more important to me now than it was when I was younger. But yeah, just the fact that like our whole lives are essentially consumed by working, that's actually a really bitter pill to swallow. Like when I realized, oh, okay, this is my life now, and it's actually hard to get out of this and be your own boss, yeah, it's difficult to comprehend. Story 21. Cancer can happen to anyone at any age for no reason. I'm 30 and I recently got testicular cancer. However, it's highly treatable these days. I had to have my left nut removed and I'm now having chemotherapy, which is not particularly fun. But thankfully, here in Australia, most of the costs are covered in the public hospital system. The sobering part, if it was the 1960s, I'd probably be dead soon. We're lucky to have modern medicine available to us. Story 22. That being the sarcastic antisocial bumhole that made you charming as a teen or 20-something just makes you avoided and disregarded as an adult. Then you realise it was never charming and people were just being tolerant. Nobody wants to be around a full-grown man who's learning how to be around people. Story 23. If you want poo done right, then you have to do it yourself. Story 24. That no phase of life is going to last forever, no matter how much it looks like it will. If you're in school, it probably seems like your whole world, and any future where you're not in school and you're an adult working a job and doing adult things just looks so far away and foreign. I remember when I packed up to go to a different city for college. I sat down in my room and looked around in those few minutes before my ride came, and it just hit me. What I had yesterday, I'll never get back. All my little habits and routines are just gone for good. My everyday routine of watching cartoons in my room in the evening, gone. Those lazy little walks along the river in my hometown every day, gone. Our cats seeing me around the house and being used to me being around and sneaking them snacks, gone. Saying hi to the neighbour on my way out of the house every day, gone. It was such a bittersweet realisation because you're headed into an exciting new future and you'll make new routines and meet new people to say hi to every day on your way to new places and new chores, and you'll have new cats and new habits, but those things you used to have that were really warm and comfortable and familiar and free of any worry or care in the world, those things are gone forever, no matter how hard you might want to cling on to them and not let go. It turned out that I was right. I mean, of course, I went home now and then and I saw our cats, and sometimes I'd catch cartoons on TV at the same time I used to every single day, but it wasn't the same. It wasn't my home base anymore. It was just a passing stop now. Yeah, this. Fully agree. And it's so strange to me, yeah, how like you were best friends with someone in your younger years and now you might not even necessarily talk to them. Like you knew so much about them, you genuinely thought you were going to be friends forever. And now they're just like a stranger in your life and you see them posting on social media and you don't react to it. And it's just like, it's just mad to think that you were once really close friends. And yeah, just the fact that like your family home, it will always be my family home, but it's like, but I've made my own home for myself now. Do you know what I mean? And that just, you just don't think of it as a child. You think you're always going to be in your small town, in your home, like with no aspirations, and that's just going to be your life. And you're okay with that when you're young. But yeah, it's crazy growing up. It really is. And I feel like you see the world for what it really is. Like now my view on the world is completely different to how I felt when I was younger. Story 25. You can't be anything you want, and you can try your hardest and still fail spectacularly. Story 26. Life isn't fair. It doesn't matter how hard you try or how good you are. Sometimes you just lose. And that's just the way life is. Story 27. Lack of finding new friends, to be honest. School and university has you covered, but once you're in the working world, less time, variance in age. Story 28. That your parents were probably just as clueless about adulthood as you are. Everyone's just winging it. Story 29. That no one gave a poo about me anymore, and that positive changes in my life were either going to get set in motion by my hand or not at all. I had a 2-year period between my freshman and sophomore year of college, and during that time my looks aged considerably. When I was a freshman, I basically looked like a young kid, and when I came back, suddenly all my professors weren't giving me any slack. Same with other authority figures in my life. That's when I realised I'd become an adult. When you're a kid, people give you the benefit of the doubt, but just 2 years later I felt the same in terms of not knowing what I was doing, but everyone expected me to know my stuff. Story 30. Kind of the reverse of most of the replies on this thread. I realised I was an adult. When I thought about what the 100% best Christmas birthday gift someone could give me was, a new fresher pack of socks. At that moment, oh poo, I'm an adult now. Yes, I actually now would want like a rice cooker for a present or like some fresh tea cloths or a towel. Do you know? And that would be the worst gift when I was a kid. I'd be fuming if I got that. I'd be like, Mum, are you all right? Like, what is this poo? Do you know what I mean? But now I just want things that are like essential to my daily routines, honestly. It is quite sad, to be honest. Story 31. That life is suffering. Everything has no meaning at all, and that I'll die on this planet. Story 32. Cheese is a freaking investment. You actually have to take out a mortgage to buy cheese. It's so expensive. It's mad, isn't it? Also, I now realise how expensive everything is, like, and how much my parents actually did for me as a kid. Like, things they bought me, like new clothes, food on the table, school trips, everything. Like, I'm really appreciative now. Like, when I was a kid, I honestly didn't care because I didn't understand how much money they were spending on me or how hard they were working for me as a kid. But now I'm like, wow, you two are heroes. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be spending my money on a kid. So well done to you guys. Story 33. You can have a strong support circle of friends and family, but ultimately you need to pick yourself up out the dirt and get on with it. Story 34. Being unattractive sucks, and there's very little you can do about it. I can turn myself from a 3 to a 5 to a 6.5 with effort. But God, people are frickin' vain. Story 35. This is kinda dumb, but I kept waiting to get larger breasts. I don't know why I assumed mine would get bigger, except I was friends with several girls who developed really early and developed quite a bit. Around 14 or 15, I realised I was probably maxed out. Now I'm actually pretty dang happy with what I have. I don't need to wear bras and they don't get in the way. I have unrelated back problems that would probably be worse with big breasts. Story 36. How every job that pays worth a damn is going to monopolise 3 to 4 of my waking hours. That just doesn't seem right. Shouldn't all this automation reduce the length of a workday? Story 37. Parents aren't some kind of infallible super beings. They frick things up too. Right up. Story 38. That everyone's out to take your money any way they can. All day long, you're barraged with ads to find new ways to get your money by selling your poo you don't need. You buy things thinking you'll feel better, but eventually you realise it's a farce. I remember wondering why older relatives didn't have newer versions of things like teas and cell phones. Now I see they knew the truth. It won't make you happier, so just get what you need and ignore the rest. Story 39. I assume from TV that acne just goes away when puberty's over. Nope. Story 40. Realising that working 8 to 12 hours a day, 5 times a week is my reality until I'm very old. Guys, isn't it so sad how our life is literally working? Like Monday to Friday, 8 to 5 or whatever your hours are. That's a lot of your life. And you know, sometimes it makes me so sad when it's like sunny outside and I'm just working inside and I'm thinking, I should be out there living my life. Like you get one life and instead I'm just like climbing the corporate ladder. Honestly, it's so depressing. Like really think about, actually don't really think about it because you'll probably curl into a ball and want to die, but it's awful. Story 41. People often lie and have no qualms about it. Trust no one when it comes to your well-being. Story 42. I bought a townhouse a couple of years ago and I don't regret it, but I've realised how expensive home ownership can be compared to renting. All the extra expenses that you can't pass on to a landlord. Story 43. Just because you're nice and want to be friends doesn't mean the other person's nice and worthy of having friends. Sometimes people are buttholes because they have emotional problems. And when people throw rocks at you, it's not because there's anything wrong with you, but with them. Being nice doesn't fix everything. As my dad said, sometimes you gotta frick a mother fricker up. Story 44. When I was 16 and started feeling sad day in and day out and it wouldn't stop, I realised that depression can happen to anyone. Story 45. You will have friends and enemies, and you'll never know if your enemies are your friends and if your friends are your enemies. Story 46. I remember my first job out of college. It was 60 plus hours a week on my feet as a restaurant manager for Red Lobster. When things in college were hard, I'd think, just 8 weeks left, etc. At work, there was no end and no summer vacation. It was crushing to realise there was no end and no summer vacation. Yes, I'm telling you now, it's a hard realisation when you don't get summer holidays anymore. Like, wow. I couldn't believe it. I was like, wait, is this actual real life? Like, is someone like trying to mug me off here? Like, this cannot be real. The fact that we don't get time off. And like, if we do, we get what, like 25 days out of an entire year. Like, is someone taking the George Michael here? Story 47. In personal finance, there will always be random expenses that throw a wrench in your budget. It will rarely ever go exactly as you planned it. Story 48. Nobody's going to fix your life for you. That no matter how unfair and unjust your situation is, debt, bad relationship, bad job, weight problems, nobody's going to fix that poo for you. So you either choose to live with it for the rest of your life, or you motherfrickin' change it yourself. It doesn't matter if your wife spent you into property, then took all your money in a divorce and saddened you with debt and alimony payments. That sucks. It's not fair. It also doesn't matter that it's not fair. You need to fix it because nobody will fix it for you. That goes for everything unfair and unjust in your life that you lament and don't fix. It doesn't matter that it's not fair. Fix it or live with it forever. Nobody will do it for you. The good news is that you can fix any problem if you work at it. The key to fixing every single problem in your life is to stare at it straight in the face and tell it that you're going to fricking destroy it. Story 49. The fact that responsibility eats into more and more of my free time. Like, sure, I can choose to not be responsible. Then I go insane with all the cleaning and poo that has to be done before I can relax. Yes, this is a struggle with my adult life. Like, I have to have the cleaning done before I can get into bed. Like, even though I've had a long day at work, long day of doing jobs, when I finish, I still have to feed myself, cook myself tea, like put a wash on, clean the house. Like, it just doesn't end. There's just not enough hours in the day as an adult. Story 50. More recently as an adult, why people stay in relationships even though they're unhappy, or they know they don't quite connect with that person. That revelation hit me like a train. Story 51. I just graduated from university with a huge amount of student debt. Despite that, I was optimistic about my prospects and had a bunch of interviews lined up the next week. I was walking down the street right past a construction site to grab a coffee when I suddenly collapsed in the middle of the sidewalk, having been hit by a falling brick. This is another thing that is difficult to comprehend. Like, anything can happen to anyone. Like, you think when you're younger, just, you think you're untouchable. You think nothing's going to ever happen. But now I've grown up, people I knew have passed away. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it does happen to people close to you. It really does. Like, it's a scary thing that anything can happen at any time. Story 52. When I realised I make more money than my mum, and I don't really make that much. Sorry for always thinking money grew on trees, mum. Story 53. Santa. Story 54. That we don't matter and nothing really matters. When we die, the only thing that will happen is that I'll disappear and it will be the same as when before I was born. There was nothing. Story 55. Life is just a cycle of being poor, working your way up, upgrading your life to the next level and repeat. Story 56. That you never really grow up. You just have to start paying your own bills. Story 57. Learning that my limbs wouldn't grow back if I ever lost one really shocked me when I was 10. I was not a smart kid. Story 58. The difference between how the world is presented and what it really is. Story 59. No matter how much you love someone, they probably talk poo behind your back. Story 60. Looks like most Redditors are incapable of being self-sufficient. Story 61. That just because you share the same blood as someone doesn't mean you share a deep bond with them. Story 62. The fact that my entire life is supposed to be dedicated to doing things I don't want to do. And if I don't do them, I'll literally starve to death. Story 63. When people die, no one cares. The world just keeps on going without them, and they'll be forgotten and never have another page written in the story of their lives. Yes, this is strange. Like, literally, you do just die, and that's it. You're forgotten about. Like, not forgotten about, but you know what I mean? You're just, that's it. That's the end. Like, and you think, I've done all of that in my life for what? You know, that is, that's something that whilst growing up, I've really struggled to come to terms with. Like, when my grandparents have passed away or something, and you do get used to them not being here. It's weird. Like, of course, I miss them every day, like with all of my heart. But you do just adapt to life being without them. It's strange. Story 64. Real friends are rare. Story 65. If you've got a bunch of money on credit cards, paying them off becomes a huge part of your monthly budget. Story 66. My dad died shortly after I turned 19. Within 3 months, my mum secretly moved out. She'd been planning it for some time now, and said she was going away for the weekend and never came back. Well, she'd come back when we were at work to collect her belongings or whatever she took to sell. It was all hers, so there was no reason to be sneaky. The house was up for sale. The agent had me write a letter to the IRS explaining my mother left us and we had no way of contacting her. I learned real fricking fast how to hustle. Went from upper middle class in the suburbs to working 3 jobs and renting a trailer within 4 months. I loved it. Didn't depend on anyone but myself and got by just fine. My sister hired a PI to find our mum and he never found her. 4 years after leaving, she sent me a birthday card. After 8 years, I finally saw her. Reality is not having anyone to save you, having no safety net, doing it for yourself when you don't think you can. Also, Irish whiskey tastes worse coming up than going down. Story 67. Mine would probs be something along the lines of how stupid some people can be. Story 68. That the other adults around you just didn't grow out of their childlike deficiencies, just like you didn't. Story 69. I'm almost 40 and this realization's flooring me right now. My caveat. I'm not depressed, though I've been in the past. I got through it. However, depression and other mental conditions can be as incurable as cancer for some people. Some people just can't beat, grow past, or live with their own demons. The entertainment industry is filled with wildly successful people who are miserable and whom sometimes take their own lives. And if there are people that fail there, it's no surprise that an average person who suffers from, say, alcoholism or something can have that consume them. Many people learn to live with, manage, or sometimes even overcome things, but that doesn't always happen. I've known for a long time that there isn't always a happy ending to every story. But seeing people that matter to me utterly consumed by something is very difficult. Story 70. We don't live in a mediocrity. Relationships are often more important than competence. Story 71. The pool of people who really actually care for you and your well-being is so incredibly small that the world shows its real colour. You see how cruel and dog-eat-dog it is. You hear these things when you're younger, the regular things like money makes the world go round, etc. But it doesn't hit you till you get hungry one day or break down on the side of the road. And then it gets worse. when those that you think care about you just plain don't. Yeah, this is something I really struggle to come to terms with, sorry. Like, when you really trust someone and you think they really care about you, but really it's kind of like everyone for themselves in this world is strange. And it is really like your close friends and your family will be a tiny circle. And when I was younger, I would just wanted it to be huge. I wanted to be so popular. I wanted all these friends. But as I've grown up, I realized that my true friends that I know want the best for me and love me and care about me, I can count on one hand. And that was a tough realization for me because I was used to having like a big circle of friends as I grew up. Yeah, and that's like quickly gone down to less and less as I get older. Story 72, that my parents wouldn't be around forever. My mum died when I was 18, and just the thought of losing my dad causes me existential stress. Story 73, the literal value of money. I mean, I always knew money was important, but damn, life is like a pay-to-play game with all paid content. I love going on long hikes and treks so I don't have to pay to experience something awesome. Frick money, and frick the fact that I have to work for the rest of my foreseeable future just to live life. Story 74, you die at 25 and don't get buried until 70. Story 75, most of my existence will be experiencing my mind and body slowly falling apart and trying to do as much as I can to delay the process while I watch my loved ones deteriorate and pass away before my eyes. Okay, that was really deep. Now I'm spiraling into depressive thoughts. Story 76, that being an adult doesn't automatically mean I know anything. And most of the time kids ask me questions, I'm just pulling the answers out of my bum. Story 77, that eventually I will die and there's nothing I can do about it. Story 78, a woman can say she loves you one day and dump you the next. Fascinating concept. Story 79, not everybody's gonna like you or even bother trying. Your cooking will never taste as good as your mum's. The only person who will always be there for you is yourself. Relationships are constant work. Happiness is a temporary emotion, not a state of being. And existence is a fundamentally pointless. Story 80. Not an adult yet, but I realised recently that my life's going nowhere, and I'll probably be working a minimum wage job my whole life. And living in a pooey neighbourhood in a terrible studio apartment at best. Story 81. Mental illness. Yes, mental illness was something I really struggled to grasp growing up. I didn't know what these feelings were inside of me or the thoughts I was having. I didn't know that was mental health because when I was younger, it wasn't really spoken about, to be honest. It wasn't, we weren't made aware of it as much as we are today, which is brilliant. But yeah, I really struggled with that, and I struggled to come to terms with the fact I have anxiety. I was wondering, like, why me? Why have I got this? But the sooner I sort of just said, look, I've got this, and it's about how I deal with it and overcome it, that's how I began to comprehend the fact that I did suffer with it. But yeah, it was really strange growing up. I never understood the feeling and thoughts were. I just thought it was feeling nervous, but I'm so glad there's so much more awareness and information around it. Story 82, a dental bill. Story 83, aging parents. I feel like I went from needing my parents to my parents needing me in a heartbeat. I barely got to enjoy that time when you can enjoy a non-dependent relationship with your parents. Story 84, that because I'm darker in colour, it changes the way people view me. Story 85. When I was a kid, I learned that property tax was a thing, and I had a mental breakdown because I knew it meant I'd always have to be earning money somehow to continue to survive for the rest of my life. Story 86. The world does not give a frick about you. You can be a good person and still get hit with poo storm after poo storm, like a domino effect of pooey life circumstances, even though you did fricking nothing to deserve it. Story 87. If you love your job, you're underpaid. Story 88, that we're taxed at around the 45 to 48% mark. Every single thing, and the government get 3 to 4 pieces of before I get it. But every time I turn around, there's another screw you for working tax. There's not a tax problem, there's a spending problem. Story 89, the lie you're told as a kid to follow your passions, do the career you love. The wake-up call was that passion and being excellent at your dream job isn't guaranteed to pay the bills. Instead, I have a worthless master degree and can't get more than minimum wage in multiple part-time jobs. Sometimes effort and passion just isn't enough. What's more important is a stable job that pays the bills and allows you to enjoy life outside of work. Guys, I know it's difficult, okay? This is what I've realised. Like, I had dreams of being an actress, okay? And it's extremely difficult if you don't come from a wealthy background. Honestly, like, it seriously is. Unless you get lucky and get, like, I don't know, like what are they called at uni? A sponsor or something like that. Yeah, unless you're like a very lucky human being, then it's so difficult. Not even just for the entertainment industry, for all these different industries, but keep pushing on, guys. Like, I found something that I really love now that's still involved in the entertainment industry, and I love it. There's always roots around things. I know it's hard, but you've just got to keep trying. Story 90. There's no do-over. Every single day, every single moment, every single path that opens up to you, they only come one time. Story 91, that my dad is an imperfect being. Story 92, at 12 years old, I got my first pubic hair. It blew me away because I wasn't ready to grow up. I shaved them off for 6 months until I got armpit hair and my voice changed. That's when I accepted the fact that it's a lost cause. Story 93, life changes considerably in your late 20s. Even though I'm single and childless, I can't seem to go out and do the things I used to. All of my friends are either married or have children, and the younger guys who aren't on the same spectrum as myself. Lots of days spent home alone in solitude, dreaming of all the things I could do, but don't have the proper companionship to really enjoy. Another thing that's relatable on this topic is how hard it is to make time for friends as you grow older. Like, honestly, it's like, hey, I'd love to see you. Can we arrange a date for next year? Like, honestly. When I was younger and I was in my bubble of friends in my hometown, all we'd do is see each other every weekend. We'd be chatting all the time. We were only free for each other, that was our main priority in life. But growing up, I barely get a chance to see my mates just because we're all so busy and have our own lives. And I never thought that it would ever get to that, but it does. Story 94, that I have to stay here in a country that I don't even belong in for 3 years after I finish studying because of how freaking expensive it is to get a diploma. Story 95, I just graduated from college. So recently I've been hit with the, oh poo, you're in the real world now and everything you once dreamed of is right around the corner, brick. Scared the absolute poo out of me and made me question my life in its entirety. Thankfully, I moved past it and am now starting to thrive. Guys, if we've all come to one agreement throughout this video, it's that life isn't fair, okay? Can anyone agree with me here? I genuinely don't think it is. Life is so much different, so much more different to what I once thought it was going to be when I was younger. It's mad. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more videos coming daily.